Here, come on, do it again. Make the noise again. Come on.
What are we doing today for Esports EDU? We are hunting down the origin of the clicky noise.
Because Bradford has clicky noises.
Clickers. I mean, the only clickers I know are on The Last of Us. So.
I have not played enough of that. Should we
really
just start
good.
the countdown?
Yes.
Oh, it
All
is 6:30. I didn't know it was 6:30. Did it happen again?
No.
No.
Okay.
I did put in the private chat, though, that there's somebody else driving this ship tonight.
Wait. What?
Yeah, you did. You're wrong for that.
Oh, hold on.
But it's not me.
Is it me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's me. Okay. It's a good thing you told me because I generally never have it on private chat. We'd just be sitting here and I'd be like, dum-de-dum-de-dee-dee-doo. Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Esports EDU live chat. I am Carrie Linden, otherwise known as the Chuck Muju. I am the this should be easier. I should have this down, and every week I'm like, it's Thursday. What am I even? I'm the communication specialist for Liminal Esports and Snowbright Studios, and the editor of our K-12 Esports news website. I'm also tired and recovering from a really nasty cold, so there you go. Bradford, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I am Bradford Harris at TechThinker on Twitter. I am the coordinator of digital innovation in Houston, Texas, and I am also the director of learning for TXF, Texas Scholastic Esports Federation, and I am a NASEF Scholastic Fellow.
And
at the bottom. I was just going to host. I said, and at the bottom.
Oh, at the bottom. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is James O'Hagan. I am the host of the Academy of Esports podcast. I am also the Director of Digital and Virtual Learning for the Racine Unified School District. And I think I did a podcast episode today with Dee Lanier and Ken Shelton. And I think it's going to get extended to a second episode because we were fooling around and messing around so much that we only got like 15 minutes of content out of an hour.
Oh, so, wow.
Some days are like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
Some days are like that.
So look up the Liberated Educator. That's a quality podcast if you have not checked it out.
It's very good. It's very good.
Yes.
So we've had. Let's just get. Anyways, it's been a day, but you know what's new? That seems to be every Thursday. We log in. We're like, yeah. So the things. What we wanted to talk about today, because you know the things just are repetitive, is getting ready for the 2021-22 school year, because we're entering into that point of the year where you are either experiencing your last day, like you're done, or it's right around the corner. So we are. I'm a parent, but I don't get summer breaks anymore. But we're all in that point where we're getting ready to close out the school year, except for the administrators. Sorry, administrators.
It's okay. I get a lot done.
I'll still be working too. So, but having a conversation about planning for success in the fall. What are we going to be doing over the next couple of months to be able to improve upon our programs, increase our reach, increase diversity? What are the plans that we're working on, and what can we be doing to make sure that we're going to be stepping forward with our best foot in the fall? Yeah,
stepping forward with our best foot forward.
My writing brain was like, you just botched that one. But
Well, not stepping forward and going 2 steps or 8 steps or 5 steps back.
Yeah.
I'll say this is that is this still 2020? Is it? I mean, it
feels like it.
Look, there's things I hope that we have learned in this time when we've been having all this disruption of ways that I hope that we can start to connect better, not just with the kids in our program. I'm really looking forward to growing our program at the middle and elementary level this summer, but also engaging parents. I know that is something that I have fallen down on hard and not done really well, is engaging the parents in our community. Now, I'll say this. The parents who I have engaged with have been phenomenal. They come to me and say, we didn't know this was a thing. We didn't know our kids were doing. We didn't know there was an actual competition. And that to me is wonderful that they're so grateful. But at the same time, that to me says, I haven't done my job of outreach to them. Right. It's kind of like just sticking that esports flyer up in your school and you're thinking like, okay, this is all I need to do.
Yeah.
I've done a good job, I think, of getting students, and I think I've done a pretty good job of engaging students from different areas. But that parent community, boy, I have not done a good job with that at all.
And I think there's a lot that can be done with the parent community, especially over a summer break. Like if you have the time with a little more flexibility of schedule, because I know a lot of times when I was teaching G4E, it was nighttime stuff. Like if you're going to be doing a parent class, it was sort of after work hours because very few of your parents could attend during the work day. So being able to put together like even parent outreach classes, I had my kids help me put together sort of a getting to know gaming class that spawned from the kid perspective. It started with a discussion of like, what would you want your parents to know about gaming? Like, what don't they know? What don't they understand? And then from the parent perspective or the adult perspective, throwing in some other things that are beneficial and useful, so that they're not coming from the kid perspective, but as an adult, like I know that the parents of like my son's friends would always complain about like these top 3 issues that they had with their kid in gaming. It's like, okay, well, most of those are avoidable. So let's talk about how you avoid them, and how you have a positive relationship with gaming. So like, I don't think we have to just focus just on the esports aspect of it. We can take a step back and be like, hey, yeah, gaming in general, let's help you navigate that, because parents do have issues with their kids gaming, even esports parents that are really supportive. There are issues that pop up with behaviors, with toxicity, with screen time. Those are things that you can head off a disaster by, I think, educating on the front end and having parents be prepared for how you handle, enforcing screen time limits, for being able to recognize a problem before it's happening, and how to handle those conversations in a respectful way that doesn't end up causing more friction between them and their gamer.
I think that's the overall conversation is not the gaming itself, but the screen time and just being in the digital space. Now that we're about to go back, and a lot of our schools and districts have devices all over the place, what does that look like? So your child is going to go back to school and devices are just rampant. You go to one class, you have a device. You're looking at an interactive board on a device. You have a device in your hand. You're going from class to class with a device. Then you go home. You're doing something on a device. Then you decide to game on a device. So the issue isn't not so necessarily I'm gaming. It's I've been in a digital space all day long. Yeah. So now, how do you get them off? And some kids are looking at this and going, either this is my break, I want to just break free, or I just need to not even be online anymore. So it is important to involve that parent community to say, okay, so now we're back. How do you feel about your child being in the digital space? And we're not talking about toxicity. We're not talking about digital citizenship. Your child has been online for over a year and a half. Yeah. What are your concerns? Because now we just issued 1-to-1. Look in the classroom. There's a big old interactive board. look to the left or right. There's a cart of Chromebooks and or laptops or iPads. We haven't escaped it yet. We're not saying that we're ditching it, but what are your concerns as a parent?
Yeah, and we might not be, because I know a lot of schools are planning to keep at least some sort of digital component up, because that way, if you've got sick days or snow days or fire days, everybody's still be able to be on campus. So there's none of that break.
Days.
Right? And so, like, I'm thinking, like, with how many hours my kid was on school online, not once were these things mentioned. You know, nobody said, like, hey, you know, what's being done to protect your child's eyes?
Because you're holding up just so people who
computer blue blocking glasses.
Glasses, yeah.
You know, so like I wear them the entire day that I'm working. I've taken them off for a stream, but from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're on my face, and I notice a dramatic difference wearing them. You know, we're putting kids in these situations where they're being online. Like, are we, as educators, like, do we have conversations with parents now about, like, well, you know, blue blocking glasses, beneficial for your eyes, taking those eye breaks every so often to look, was it 10 feet or whatever, beyond you, focus on something, bring your eyesight back. What are we doing about posture? Because not only are we like sitting at desks all day, but we're attached to technology. And if you're at a computer and your computer's set up ergonomically, then, you know, your shoulders can still be back, your head can still be up, you can still be looking upwards at a screen. But, you know, my school handed out iPads to all of the high school students. And so you've got a lot of kids that are doing this. So you end up with that sort of hunched neck back that happens over time because your alignment is screwed up. I know chiropractors are already seeing it because kids spend so much time staring down at phones. So, you know, what are the conversations we could be having for parents just even over the summer so kids can practice just physically how to be safe with that much technology?
I never thought about that. That's a whole new conversation. Even like I'm picturing now, even when you get the school supply list, what does that look like now? Like,
yeah.
You might want to think about getting your son or daughter's eyes checked. Well, this is not about their eyes being 20/20. It's about how long have they been on screen at those blue blocking eyes on there. Getting a protected case for your device. Yep. I even said this before. One of my program directors asked, well, what else do they need? If you don't get anything else, if they have to be online, you might want to increase your network bandwidth at your house if you're able to. And that's not I'm not saying that's not a requirement, but if you're able to, look at what we've been through this whole entire year and a half. We've all been online, and so now you're having to go to your service provider and see what's going on with your bandwidth. I told my program director, so do you spend $200-$300 on books, pencils, pens, all that kind of stuff, or do you spend it on a Chromebook?
Right.
What do you do?
I as we're talking about how are we doing, planning now so that we're ready for the fall, so we can launch in the fall. And Carrie, you bring up an awesome idea with these blue blockers too, especially because a lot of times when we're talking about esports, and we're talking, well, let's just talk about, I want to focus on the esports side of it just in general. I'm thinking about my team prep. Jerseys is one of those things that we're going to definitely have. But I need to consider water bottles. I mean, just... blue blocker glasses and water bottles. Why not? Now, these are not the coolest things. I mean, if you take a look at mine are that old, plasticky. These look like my glasses I had when I was in 7th grade, and maybe they're fashionable now, but something that is stylish. I almost want like stylish blue blockers, something futuristic.
Like $10 off of Amazon.
I know they're $10, but I feel like, come on now. If there's people who are in marketing right now, it's like
there are really cute ones. You can get cool ones. I would I'm like, that's like $30 more.
But if we're talking about planning now because look, your esports program, if you're like coming into it in August, you're not getting it set up for the fall. You're just not. The conversations the conversations need to be going on right now. If it is not going on right now, then you are missing out on the prime time, because this is the time when people think, school really shuts down. No, this is when the heavy duty cleaning goes on. And this is when IT gets all of their orders in, and they have to inventory and they have to get it prepped and they have to get it out. IT does not like finding out 2 weeks before, oh, by the way, can you please switch our whole network so that we can put a switch on it? I mean, even if it's like your switch and you haven't had that conversation with IT, you have to have that don't throw that at those people at last minute. They'll be busting their butts because I've done that work.
If you haven't made friends with your IT department and you are running an esports or gaming program,
or thinking,
what are you doing? Yeah, no, that is the first person you reach out to. You buy them coffee if they drink coffee. You make that person your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. If you haven't started that process now, do it.
Yeah. Thank God I'm like literally next door to mine. We've had it's funny that y'all talking about planning right now, because as y'all are talking, I'm doing my I'm sending my informal meetings to my principals for tomorrow and next week. Like, I have been in the work this past month, like behind the scenes, just okay, I need to get this ready. It's like band. If any of you guys that are band directors, like the year never stops. I'm like, oh my God, so this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, like I had to talk to HP Omen the other day, and they asked, well, we need specs for what games you're playing. And so I could have given them a list of games, but I turned around and I made a freaking manual. I need this because okay, y'all know I don't do ragging. So I sent them like, here is my official organization manual of all the games I'm going to play. Here's what my tech apps teacher wants to as well. So that's official. I sent out letters to my principal saying, hey, we're getting ready to start. I have an informal meeting. I have professional development that we're going to do in July, just so that you're ready, because I know that the teachers, when they officially come back in August, they won't have time to even talk to me. So I need to have them set up, get a kit together so that they can start recruiting. It's a lot of work. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, what I did in the beginning, and I had Jarrell and everybody else laughing, what I did in the beginning was cute. But now, like, the real work begins of getting everybody organized and together and talking about what we're talking about right now, the blue blockers and everything else.
Yeah. I think another thing just beyond, he muted himself, got shamed into quieting his clicky keyboard. Now it just sounds so quiet. Anyways, on top of just like some of the physical things, I know that we're entering into this season of conferences, and some of them are going to be on site this year. I already know a few have been announced to be on site. I know a lot of them are going to be digital. There's anything from serious games. We've got Games for Change that's happening. We've got the Ed Game Expo that we're running a demo at next week. You've got all the kind of the other ones. You guys at TechSef, you've got one down in Tech. When is that one? It's fall though, right?
It's in the fall.
Yeah, it's in the fall. So like, I think summer's a great time to hit conferences if you can, and especially if they're still free to attend. I think the great thing that I've really liked about COVID is that it has made some conferences much more accessible, because there is online access. A lot of times the prices have been reduced, or there has been no cost. There's no travel cost to it, and you have access to a lot of great panels. My challenge for people in esports would be to challenge yourself and step outside of your comfort zone in the panels that you sit in and participate in. All too often, I find if it's a diversity and inclusion panel, it's all women. It's generally a lot of women that are in the channel. It's generally a lot of people of color. It's a lot of LGBTQ people. It's the people that don't need to be there. It's the people that are currently fighting. Not to say they don't need to be there.
Are you talking are you talking presenters, or are you talking?
No, I'm talking about people that are participating.
Okay.
That are watching the panel. Like by and large, there's different demographics in each presentation. So my challenge to people would be like, find the things that you're not already comfortable with. Like, it's great to go and support your friend, give the panel that you've seen them present 4 times. Don't do that. Like, don't do it. You're not getting anything out of that. You've seen it. You know them. They're already a resource. Tell them, hey, good luck on your panel. Check in with me later. I want to know how it goes. I'm going to go watch this one because this makes me uncomfortable. Go to the panels that you know nothing about. Go to the panels that have people that you don't know. Go to the panels that have topics that you are like, I don't know. Go to the stuff that's going to challenge you, the stuff that's going to make you grow. I would love to pop into channels and panels and see a diverse group of people in each subject, and find that people are learning new things. So don't sit in your comfort zone. I remember when I went and I sat on a panel at Serious Play, and I went to like bizarre stuff. I sat in medical panels. I sat in military panels. I sat in collegiate panels. I went to everything that I could kind of go to because I wanted to see how gaming was being used across different disciplines, across different industries. And a lot of the stuff, like, people are like, well, it's not relevant. I absolutely 100% was relevant. Like, it was relevant because the stuff that they were talking about is still gaming. It's still using gaming to educate. It's just educating a different group of people in a different situation. But it's 100% applicable. So, go and look at this different stuff. Challenge yourself. It's a great time to think outside the box. Take some, spin a wheel, like roll a die, do something to randomize it and be like, yeah, I'm going to go to that one because you might actually learn something.
I agree with that.
I that's a thing that always bothered me. Let's just talk about ed tech conferences in general. When people, because look, before the pandemic, you could see people lining up for miles to go see a Google thing. Okay, right? And then the pandemic hit, and everybody forgot everything that they learned at all those Google panels, right? Everybody forgot all those things that they forgot at those Leslie Fisher things that they were standing out line for. Everybody forgot all those platitudes, all those, make you feel good, kumbaya sessions. Yes, you're absolutely right, Carrie, about challenging yourself, about going to those things that look like hard topics that are going to not, because that's the thing I think we have issues with in education. Everybody's too nice sometimes. It's they want to feel good about themselves. They don't want to go into something and feel like they're challenged.
And be challenged.
A few years ago, when I was hosting, I was the chair of the Wisconsin WeCan conference. The keynote speaker said, "What kind of keynote do you want?" And I said, "Give this keynote like it's your last one you're ever going to give. Like, don't worry about making them happy. Put things to them that make them unhappy or question what it is that they are doing." And he did that. And while it did not go over or resound, and I think some people were honestly feeling a little insulted by that.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that we went outside and said, nope, here's some things that are just not going to make you feel good. These are some truths. And now, of course, people wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter. They want to talk about racial inequities. Well, damn, we've been trying to talk about that for years, but you all didn't want to hear it. You wanted to have that person get up on stage and make you feel all fluffy and nice.
I mean, and even now people want to talk about it, but they don't really want to talk about it. Like, we're still we're having the conversation, but that conversation is still very surface level. We're still not talking about, well, how have you changed your recruiting? How have you changed the games that you're playing? Like, are you keeping track of your demographics? What are you actively doing, and what are your plans moving forward? And I think that's a grittier conversation. We've gotten to the point where we can talk about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the action is happening. Now we're at the point where we need to start talking about the action and making sure that that's happening. And that's a different, meatier conversation. And it's definitely uncomfortable because there's going to be a lot of people that are honestly going to say, virtue signaling. There are a lot of people who've been having the conversation but haven't been putting in the work. So when you are sitting in a situation where people are actually talking about the work, if you're not participating in it, it's uncomfortable because now you've got to acknowledge that you've taken a step, but you've stopped Like, you need to take that next step and that next step and that next step. You know, you see it right now with Pride. Like, everybody's got their rainbows coming out because Pride's right around the corner. But believe me, like, the legislation that keeps getting passed that's anti-LGBTQ is huge. The discrimination that it's still huge. Like, that's not the work. Like, you can put a rainbow up on your wall, but that's not what's making a change.
That's the one thing that I know my my now former supervisor, because tomorrow I think it's her. Well, no, it's not her last day, but in a couple weeks it'll be her last day. But she said she's more impressed with people who are doing the work, no matter what it is. She's turned off with people who present, whether they're a keynote or not, feature presenter or not, and they've been doing this for years, but they've never done the work. They've never set foot in the classroom. And even if they haven't set foot in the classroom, she doesn't see the work. And I told her, I said, all this work that I have been doing, whether it's been esports or curriculum writing or whatever, I said, I find it more worthwhile than just getting that, the Flipgrid badges, the Google Cert badges, the Nearpod badges. I love all that stuff, but like, me actually like digging in deep, having this discourse like we're having now, and really just figuring out why things are the way they are, and then going out and showing my work and presenting it, that's worthwhile. That's what I get out of it. And she said, that's what I want you to do. You want to get respected because you're doing the work and not somebody that's just standing and showing, look at all this stuff. Look at what you can do, but you've never done the work at all.
And I think being open with our failures, like doing the work doesn't mean that you do it right. It doesn't mean that everything's a success, and it doesn't mean that you ever reach the end. So I think being open and being like, I tried this, and man, was that a can of worms I didn't expect I'd open up. Learned a lot. Here's what I learned. Like, I think we got to be able to be comfortable having that dialogue too, because the work is messy, and sometimes it's accidentally, unintentionally offensive. Like, there's a learning process, especially if you've been functioning under a lot of unidentified bias. When you finally start opening up and making forward progress, it's not going to be clean. And I think getting comfortable, instead of hiding all of that, it'd be really great if people started being more transparent and open with that, because I think that helps a lot of other people. Some people are afraid to even start because it's like, well, if I make a mistake, like, you're going to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. Like, we're human.
I made those, the whole race to the cups, right? Simple idea. Let's play some League of Legends. We'll set it up into these things. I'm just going to run it through UGC. And so it's supposed to be easy.
Not easy.
No. And again, learning this becoming just like how putting up different people in front of the camera, saying, "Hey, you're driving the ship tonight," or we have to embody these things that we're telling kids to take chances on, right? So I said, can I run a tournament? And did it get better as we went by? Yeah, but I go back to this whole thing of, you become responsible forever for what you have tamed. By the end of it, I was like, Jesus, just make this thing stop. I don't want to do this anymore.
Can I take it out back and get rid of it?
Yes, I want. Look, it's the end of the school year. I have kids who I'm trying to get graduated, and I don't know how. Again, I come back to like a Mike Dolly. I come back to Danielle. She's not here tonight, but I come back to these people. Even our good buddy down in Louisiana, Chris Turner, how we do all these things and have our other full-time jobs on top of our full-time jobs. And yet there's people in our space, in the scholastic esports space, who have this as their sole job, and you just look at them and you go, how are you not doing more? And I guess what I'm getting at with this is, how are we preparing for summer, or how are we going to prepare for success in the fall? Let's think about this. Let's say an organization that you have invested a lot of time, effort, and sweat equity into all of a sudden goes out of existence. are you prepared for that entity to go out of existence? Are you prepared to say, leave that entity behind? This summer, what I feel like, especially state associations should be doing is coordinating together, finding the damn common ground. I mean, look, yeah, we all have our egos, and yes, we all have a little bit of founder syndrome, and yes, we all have a stake in everything that we have done. But we should also be finding those commonalities to say, look, all we have really at this point is each other.
Yeah,
how do we get ourselves together this summer to make sure that if one of us is struggling, we don't let them just fall. We come together and we help support each other. And because guess what? Because there's a lot of things, guess what? We don't have control over. And this is how we get controls. Rather than sitting on the sidelines, we get proactive and say, guess what? We're gonna put up our firewalls to make sure that we are protected.
And I think we can't forget the fact that we're coming out of a COVID school year, and that has impacted programs budgeting and attendance. And this is probably the year that universities are going to be feeling that hit pretty hard, because they've come off a year where they've lost international tuition, where they've lost just local and national tuition. Everybody's taken a pretty big hit. I know even like state of California, we're having issues with budgeting as well because of stuff through COVID. Like, as the new set of funds get divvied out for this next school year, we're potentially going to see a lot of flux, or just changes within existing programs. And we talked like maybe it was last week too, about preparing your program, not even just if the organization that you've participated in folds. What happens if a key person in your team leaves? Because we know we have skyrocketing teacher burnout right now. We have a lot of people that have been contemplating leaving. We have a lot of esports educators that are the sole person running their program, or they're one of two. They're on really small teams. We have a really bad habit of taking on way more work than we should and way more responsibility than we should, and not preparing other people to pick up the mantle. So what can we be doing between now and fall to make sure that we're shoring up our programs as well, so that if we have to step out, or if our partner steps out, like there's other people we can tap in and keep programs afloat.
We had this exact conversation at our board meeting, Wisconsin High School Esports Association board meeting on Tuesday night, talking about, again, because Mike does a lot. Now, it's not to say that Brian, who does our financial work, doesn't, or Nathan, who took so much time to get the bylaws put together for our organization and work with a lawyer to do that. It is how do we not only just leverage these nonprofits that we have to help to disperse the work, but understand just how much power we have now. Once you get that 501c3 designation, how are we going to leverage that power that we have this summer? Because a lot of us haven't done that. And I don't know if it's nerves, and I don't know, because the rumor out there is, well, there's not enough esports grants. Don't look for an esports grant.
No. Look for grants.
Look for grants, right? Right now, what is ESSER all? Let's take for ESSER. I know it's not a grant program, but let's take ESSER. ESSER is all about, those of you who aren't in public education, or I don't know if it's in private as well, but if you're not in public education, ESSER is basically funds that is being set aside to re-engage kids in schools, right? Anything that you can come up with, you've got a bucket of money to your school district, you can basically use it for these things over the next 3 years. There's going to be grants that have to be coming out, I would imagine, about and around not just social, emotional, but also, like I said, student re-engagement, STEM, STEAM. Even if it's it doesn't have to have that. The mental health component makes it great, but think of the ecosystem around this, right? We always talk about this esports ecosystem, and if you just focus on the games, you miss on so much. Take it even from those perspectives around the ecosystem, and can you write that grant that builds it around, I won't say social media. I can't imagine any grants around teaching kids how to use social media, but maybe there is. I don't know. But
there's scholarship.
But finding those things in the ecoverse that you can then say, okay, but we're going to make it through the lens of competitive gaming, for example.
I mean, it's having your grant committee.
Some people don't. I mean,
and that kind of blows my mind. Like, if you're a nonprofit, you should have a grant committee.
let me ask you this, Carrie. Is a nonprofit really I mean, I guess it would be a nonprofit, but why would you form a nonprofit if you're not going out to get donations?
I don't know. I don't know, because if you're not going out to get donations, it's so is it safer and you have more control as an LLC?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just curious. I'm asking this question. I'm throwing this question out to people. Why would you have a nonprofit and not have it be a 501c3 to go get donations?
I don't know. To me, the only reason you would go nonprofit is for the 501c3. I don't get to, otherwise to me, you go LLC. Like that would be I mean, that's where we went. We went LLC. It's, I don't.
And if you don't have a full answer, that's cool. But I have been looking for that answer, and I can't seem to find it.
No, that's because I don't know that there is there's, to me, there's not a clear one. Like you go for the nonprofit so you can get, your exempt designation, so you can take donations, so that funding can come, through that way. And yeah, there's a that creates its own set of issues. You've got to have your special bank accounts, you've got to do your auditing, you've got to it's work running a nonprofit the way it's supposed to be run. But the benefits to that, I mean, that's why you have it. And there's so much stuff available to you as a nonprofit, from crowdfunding to grants to even just angel donor donations. Like there's a lot, even just marketing. There's a lot of platforms that are open to nonprofits that aren't open to for-profit businesses. So to me, yeah, you get that designation, and then you have that team that is hustling, and they hustle all year. Like I sat on a grant committee for a year, and I sat on a grant committee for a year, and then I bailed because man, did I get tired of sitting at a desk until 11 o'clock at night, hemming over our paperwork and reviewing our grants. I am not like Grace. I cannot pump out a massive, beautiful document in 2 days' time. That's beautifully cited, and no, that's not my wheelhouse. But
it is a skill set.
It is a skill set, and
is.
You can people hire grant writers. Like we had a grant writer that headed up our grant committee, and that person's sole job was to constantly be scouring the internet for different opportunities for us to be able to secure funds. And they also helped to keep track of, what our progress reports were due, and, were we using the money where we were supposed to, tracking the evidence for that, to being able to reply back. But, if you don't, like
I said, if you've got your nonprofit, start to leverage it this summer. Start to plan to, because again, I look at this and go, well, Mike, we could almost, if we get enough funds and we just we're looking for donations for operations, make sure that your budget is written out so that you can have a wish list of things that you want to have funded.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great, as I said to Mike, wouldn't it be great if you could make this your full-time job? Like just running the Wisconsin High School Esports, or at least part-time, or get some financial. I mean, he's all about, making sure that he's doing this for the kids. That's cool and all. But Mike, I want you to get taken care of too.
People need to eat.
Oh yeah.
Like
you gotta eat. You gotta put clothes on your back.
And I gotta say too that Danielle had a really fabulous idea. And it was put out yesterday on the Esports EDU thread. But this summer, I think a way to find success in the fall is by working on, and I love this because this goes back to parent engagement, setting up some kind of a parent organization. She calls it a guild, having a parent guild for your competitive esports teams, rather than just going through your boosters. Now, some school districts, their athletic directors have been all on board. They're like, yep, we'll give you the full support. But a lot of districts, you got a lot of athletic directors who want nothing to do with this. Form your own parent guild. Form your own parent organization.
Yeah.
You want to engage those parents, this is the way you do it. And as Danielle will point out, I'm sorry she's not here to say this because she does it so much better than I do. But her idea is, think about this. Now you don't have to go to your school district for every little nitpicky little thing that you want to get. You want to stream and make money? Have that money go to your parent organization. You want to buy, get new jerseys or whatever. Maybe your parent organization can hustle and get that donation for you. Yeah. Made up of people in your community. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, having something like that set up for the fall. Yeah. Now that takes your good program and turbocharges that potentially.
Oh, absolutely.
Like an esports PTO.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And Chris says, Fryer says, hello everyone. I love the Parent Guild idea. I'm so
great idea.
But again, Danielle Johnson. And she says she stole the idea from somebody else. I don't know. She won't say who, but I'm giving credit to Danielle Johnson on this one. So
I mean, when you have, like, we had one year, we had one group of parents that were financial rock stars. Those people were so invested in their kids' class that we had a 6-day, 5-day, like, end of year trip for that graduating class. We took them from Southern California. We took them up to San Francisco. Like, we were staying in hostels at the Presidio. We went to all these museums. Everything we did over the course of the year for that group was fundraised by those parents. Like, those parents hustled. And if you can get a group of parents that are really involved, especially like sports parents, can hustle. There's definitely a lot of potential there.
Fiona popped in because she and I were going on about this. She says, if your goal is to fund your nonprofit through sponsorships, partnerships only, and not donations and grants, you don't need the tax deduction to dangle. You have less people looking at what's happening behind the scenes. You only answer to your partners and a small board of directors, unless the public decides to exercise their right to view your required disclosures. Again, I can't wrap my brain around why not then just do a for-profit and just call it a day.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a legal reason. There's probably some way that it creates a weird protection, but I don't know financially. Yeah, financially, it's a hard one. I mean, if you had a really small board of directors, it was very insulated, and it wasn't really going to change, then maybe that allows you to make some moves. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as it stands, your executive officer shouldn't be making big decisions for an organization without like board approval. So even then, like, I don't know.
Questions everyone should be asking, again, Fiona. The questions everyone should be asking when they see any new announcement between a nonprofit organization and a for-profit partner. Has that happened recently? Or simple, did any of your board of director or staff get a financially compensated role in the for-profit? Gosh, where did that happen?
Yeah, conflict of interest is a huge one.
Do those people have shares or a stake in the for-profit? Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about. But go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, even the little nonprofit that I worked at, we were always super careful about conflict of interest. Like that was something that you just everything you look at, you've got to make sure that it's not there. Well,
the other thing that I look at too is how do we take our summer and jumpstart us for fall around our nonprofits is looking at our boards. Now at TechSF, I don't know what your board looks like. Wisconsin, we have a rather small board, but we know that we need more community involvement in our board. And I guess it's hard because people think you have to have people who are experts in gaming, people who are experts in esports to be on a board for a nonprofit. No, what you need are people who are just enthusiastic about this, who want to help, and diverse set of profession, especially because you don't have staff to hire, a diverse set of professional skills to help make your work so much easier.
You want to have a lawyer. We had a grant writer. You want to have somebody who's got really good financial skills. We had a CPA. Like you do want to be looking at people. Like you definitely want an educator. If you're looking at a scholastic esports board, maybe more than one. I would say it'd be beneficial to have a high school and probably a lower grade teacher as well, because if you're going to be offering esports beyond the high school level, you don't want to be looking for, like, you want to be looking for skill sets that are going to make your board better educated to handle the different situations that they're going to face as an entity. And you want to, within those skill sets, you want to find diverse perspectives that are going to reflect the population that you're serving. So if your board is occupationally diverse, but it doesn't match the demographics of, the diversity within the demographics of the community that you're serving, you're missing a key proponent, which is perspective, which then you would need to rectify.
How's your board looking, Bradford, for you all? I mean, does it have people outside of schools?
If you're talking outside schools with K-12, the only person that we have, well, no, technically it would be there's two people. There is one that works for an ed tech company, and then if you're counting collegiate and not K-12, then there's another person. But if you're lumping all of scholastic school, K-12 and college, then technically there's one person. So yeah, that's but I still say we're as diverse as we possibly can be. So
and I think we all have to be aware that, like we were talking before, of the road never ends. Like when you're building your board, it's never going to be perfect. You might look back at it and be like, oh, that board was awesome. But the nature of boards is that they change, or they should change. People come and go. The face of the board, the tone of the board is going to change periodically. So take it where you are and be like, okay, this is great. Next time around, it would be good to add this to it. Or it might be good to add this to it, and realize that, that it's a living creature that is going to change over time.
And another thing with us too, that even though we've done a lot this past year and a half, we're still new, so we still have growing pains. On the surface, we've done a lot of amazing stuff, but with any organization, you go back and go, okay, where did we slip up here? Where did we do really good here? What do we need to fix here? How do we change from this year to this year? Obviously, we're in a COVID situation, so now we need to go back and look at okay, what does this look like now that we're coming out of COVID? We were really successful in COVID. We know that we can do this, and we can prove now that anybody can do this, no matter what situation you're in. But now, what does this look like every day in the quote brick and mortar sector?
And it gets monotonous. That's the thing, is that your passion takes you only so far, but sometimes, not saying all the time, but sometimes this work can get monotonous as well too.
It does, and one of the things that, like, I always kick myself in the foot with, or head, or whatever you kick yourself with, is that if you are in this nonprofit affiliate, whatever, esports board, and you're all teachers, you're different levels of teachers. So, like, I know in my board, a majority of them are teachers, but then there's me, and then there's another person, Roberto, that we're at the district level. So our hat is a little bit different. Yeah. But for me, like, I feel so bad when they put on tournaments and they're hosting the tournaments. I'm just getting out of work. And so I'm like, well, I'm driving home, so I can't participate in that way. I come home and either it's just starting or it's over. And if Danielle listen, I'll be honest. The last thing I want to do is get on a computer and watch what's going on Twitch, because I'm tired. I've been on a computer all day long. But I'm like, go text them. I wish her all the best of luck. But then on the flip side, she'll tell you, like, I'm cranking out some documents for you. Hey, I've just done this esports portfolio for you guys. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. So there's some give and take. But for me, I still feel bad, like, dang it, I'm not doing this part. I hope they're not talking sugar honey iced tea about me. but it is cool. But you have to figure out, like, where you're how much you're going to put in. And we've had that conversation too, and Danielle's really open. She's like, hey, let me know if you're not able to do this, because we understand that this is nonprofit. We all are teachers. We have to grade papers after this meeting at 8:00 at night. And we're all doing this for FREE. So that's the reality, and that's what it is. But we want to make sure that this is exposed. And the other thing on top of that too, that I want to make sure for my state, is that nobody is trying to, I hate to say it like this, but nobody is trying to infiltrate what we're trying to do at the same time. But we still want to welcome you into this space. Because some people are still saying, okay, wait, what's TechSev? We're this. So wait a minute, before you start throwing the dollars, we're over here doing this where you don't have to throw out the dollars. You can do this for free. Try us out first before you go to the other ones. We're not saying don't go to the other ones, but if you're still leery, you're not sure, you don't want to buy anything quite yet, we're over here to help support.
Yeah.
For free.
I think one of my recommendations, I know we're getting low in the hour. Now that we're in summer, this is your opportunity, like in a week or two, to reach out to those other organizations, make friends, people like you.
We really need to heal some healing right now.
Yeah,
right.
we really do. Like, just all the stuff that's been happening on Twitter for the last couple of weeks. Like, we've been in this very tumultuous space. This is your opportunity. Like, if you're running a league and there's this other league that's running in your area, talk, collaborate. Like, even with like national organizations, introduce yourself. Like, we need to get out of this headspace of like exclusivity. Exclusivity by, I got like migraine meds inside my mouth and my body, and they trip up my tongue. Yeah, it's great. It's fun being friends. Neurologically diverse. Yeah, make friends. Like, we need to get to the point where schools feel comfortable participating in multiple leagues. It's not just, this is the one I belong to. You might only belong to one, but you might also belong to two. Or you might belong to this one, but your neighboring school might belong to that one, and that should be okay. You should still be able to talk to one another. You should still be able to potentially like scrim with one another. Leagues and organizations should be able to talk and cross-promote and share ideas and support each other and lift each other up. Like, if we're going to build a respectable industry out of esports EDU, we need to carry ourselves professionally, and that means, collaboration, setting norms and standards, and realizing that we're all here in this space, and that's okay. We need to get there. We're down to the tidbits of our scheduled time. We should probably start final thoughts.
Well, I think Sam has an excellent final thought off of your thought that you just gave, which is save the competition for the game.
Yes, that's a good one.
But I would like to say though that could we not have situations where it turns into that Call of Duty video that was floating around from that LAN party in Texas? I don't even want to put it in chat, but let's just say this: there's a good reason that we're still in this space, because we have a lot of work to do. We have so much work to do here, and again, as I said earlier about having Carrie drive the ship, or having Danielle share her great idea, or me doing a tournament. It's like we have to get ourselves into these uncomfortable spaces to really grow this and to be vulnerable, and we have to be transparent as well, in all this. I guess that's my big idea, is that as we're getting into this, be vulnerable, be transparent, be exploratory, tell people when you don't know things, admit it. I don't have all the answers. I have some of them, but I don't have all of them. So, and even the answers I think I have, I talk to somebody, I go, oh, maybe I didn't have that answer. So it happens. So that's my final thought for tonight.
Bradford?
So I'm also going to say this. I think we are actually, believe it or not, I think when it comes to esports, we are in a good place. I think with administrators and districts, their eyes are open. I know they're still cautious, but think of where we were at 3-4 years ago when they said, oh, no, get that out, violence, this, nasty, ugh. But now they're looking at it as more student engagement. How can we get more students involved? But they still don't know. And that's where all of us come in. And now is not the time to hoard all of our knowledge. Now it's our time to start sharing, because they're looking at how can we get more students involved, because the reality is now students are not, they're not coming to class online or physically anymore. And parents are now peeping the game too, like, oh, my child doesn't have to go here, they can go here. So parents and students are becoming a lot smarter. So now student engagement is key, and they're looking at esports as that engagement, but they just they don't know how to put it in place in schools. And that's where all of us are going to come in and be that support and help.
Yeah. I think mine, next time we see y'all, we're going to be in Pride. If you think your program doesn't have LGBTQ plus students, you're probably wrong.
Data suggests.
Yeah, data suggests you're wrong. So now is a really great time to educate yourself on the LGBT community. It's not one big, fluffy, happy place. LGBTQ folks are not all the same. Even if you fly the same flag, does not mean you represent the same way. It's a great opportunity to look at your programs. Are your documents written in an LGBTQ-friendly way? Are you allowing for various pronoun uses when you do your tournament signups? Do you collect gendered information? Is that a binary gender? Or do you allow for non-binary and trans individuals? You know, what are you actively doing to make your program as inclusive as possible, and educating yourself on the issues that are being faced right now by your LGBTQ youth? Because if you are not paying attention to LGBTQ issues, 2021 is set to be one of the worst years as far as anti-LGBTQ, anti-trans rights legislation in the United States. It's getting really bad, and a lot of that is impacting schools. So if you are in certain states, there's legislation that's passing that actually prevents you from using new names, from using gender identifying pronouns, and essentially requiring that you dead name your students. So I think you really need to look at what your state legislation, what's going on in your state legislation, what's happening in your programs, and what you can do to be able to support your LGBTQ students. It's extremely important. Like, oftentimes, you know, you're looking at kids that have a higher risk of pretty much everything. If there's a risk, LGBTQ population usually has a higher percentage of it, especially when you come to things like self-harm and suicide. So sometimes creating that safe space, especially within a school system, especially if you're in a conservative state, can be a lifesaver. So reach out to your LGBTQ folks. Make sure you're getting information this month from good LGBTQ organizations, because this is the month of virtue signaling. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's all rainbows and bows and butterflies and is really hollow. But definitely reach out, learn. Your students will be better for it if you do it.
And Carrie, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is a topic not to discuss tonight.
Yeah.
But
wait, let me pull up the spreadsheet. Hold up. I'm getting the spreadsheet up so that we make sure we put it on a future show.
Yes. I had a coworker. It wasn't him, but it was a coworker talking to another coworker, wondering why the use of pronouns was important, and he wasn't joking about it, but it was kind of a side joking conversation. And I looked to the left, and I'm like, yeah, you can't do that. So, and I was educating him on, you know, it's important that why this is important. He he, him, they, them, all of those are important, and here's why. So especially in this space, especially since, of course, Carrie, you and of course my daughter has been educating me on these things, and I educated my coworker on this is why this is important. I think that is a very important topic as we're entering the new year. Why the use of pronouns is very important, and why it shouldn't be a laughing matter. Whether you're joking about it or you just don't get it, I think that's a topic that we need to discuss.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Fiona had a final thought that James put a lot of extra attention into arranging his pillows tonight. Yes, I did.
Your cat was thinking like midway through. I'm like, damn, his sofa looks nice.
It's very HGTV. Because I was about to say that, like, you've been watching some home shows.
Is there a candle on the coffee table too?
What you been doing?
I've got a train wreck behind me, but
I just got these brand new couch covers from Lithuania for my out of production IKEA couch, and it just made a whole new couch. So it's like the room and the curtains and the carpet, the rug brings the room together. So it's all just fantastic here.
The dog hair brings my room together, especially with the scattering of cat toys.
Yeah, cat hair is a real thing.
High class.
Well, my wall is fabulous. But what you need to do, James, now is just take a picture of it and use that as your green screen background now. So we don't know.
Actually, what I was thinking is, if I open that door over this shoulder just a little bit, it's green in there because of the lighting. I could have just had my little Mario Brothers stuff still going on back.
Just sort of like blinking in the background.
In the background, right? Like ooh, Mario's sneaking out of the closet.
Right?
You know? Yeah. All right.
I love the couch and pillows, though.
Thank you. It's IKEA for everything. So, carry your.
That's it. Thank you for, but I don't have the button to end it, so you can totally mess with me. Thank you guys for joining us. We will be here next week. See you all till then. Be nice to one another.
Enjoy your Memorial Day.
Oh yeah, 3-day weekend.
3-day weekend.
4 days. I'm off tomorrow.
Yeah.